much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I like to do on the show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about our author, Russell Hamblin. He's written the book, The Magnificent Mindset Mind. Now, I love it. Now, I know I want you to be comfy. I want you to be cozy because we are going to get started in just a few minutes. You know, I know it. I know it's such a great title. We have a mind that is beautiful and ever expanding, and if we use it properly, there is nothing that we cannot do. I love it. So go on, get your coffee, get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Russell. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's an honor to be able to talk to you, Dr. Angela.
Well, thank you for being on the show. We definitely want to share your book with our listeners and anything that's going to make folks better. I'm always open to that conversation. I love it. Now, before we get started with your book, as we do here on the show, we'd like to introduce our authors to perhaps a few people out there who are a little unfamiliar. So my first question for you is, what makes you you? What makes Russell the man that he is today?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm a lot of things. I am a scientist. I am a person of faith. I am a father. I am a husband. I am a grandfather. And I'm a very enthusiastic person that loves life, loves to study, loves to help others, and loves to share examples and stories to other people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that that was just the next thing along your life path?
More the latter. I haven't always wanted to be an author. I haven't always been a really good writer or anything like that. I struggled through school when I was younger. I could remember when I was 12 years old and in 6th grade that I got like 5 D's on my report card. By the time I was in high school, however, in my later years, I was making the honor roll, and I started getting involved in reading inspirational books, the Bible, and also a lot of motivational books, and that kind of inspired me to become an author, to share my experiences and my knowledge, the things that I've learned over the years with other people.
Absolutely. I love that. How if we really start to pay attention to our lives as we gather the information along the way, there's so much we can share. And we really do have a book's worth of information in us if we just sit down and take the time to share that information with others, what was first shared to us. I love that you're doing that. Now, the title of your book, The Magnificent Mindset Man. I like the title. It is quite intriguing, and I think I would pick it up. With that being said, how did you come about such a title?
Well, I wanted to write a book about the mindsets of success, and I wanted to share, like I said, things that I've learned throughout the years, scripturally and through good motivational books and through all my life experiences with people. I'm a person who has succeeded in a lot of ways. I'm a person who has failed in a lot of ways. I'm a person that fell into a gambling addiction and been able to climb out of that successfully over the last couple of years. But as a result of some of my successes and some of my failures, I really wanted to start sharing with people what works and what doesn't work and how I can relate to people. And I didn't want to just write about the 7 transcending mindsets of success without letting people know that I'm not necessarily the master of this. And so I wanted to actually sit down and I guess I got inspired by reading the book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. It's a fictional book that teaches, kind of like mine in a way, the certain mindsets and certain ways of thinking that's more successful than others. And so as I picked out among many different successful mindsets, I narrowed it down to 7, and I decided to write a fictional story about some real-life experiences that I've had in remote parts of the world. Like I chose Alaska because I worked there quite a bit on a remote island, and I wanted to make an adventurous story come alive in people's eyes and tell people how, in a way, I came up with the 7 mindsets of success, these 7 transcending mindsets of success. And so I decided to pick an important character that I call in my book a person by the name of Billy Haynes. And he is a very successful person fictionally, but he's also somebody that's alive within me. It's somebody that I want to become. And so I developed this fictional character, and then I changed my own name to another name, and I become kind of, in a way, a character within the book in places where I've done environmental science type work out in on an old abandoned uranium mine on a remote island in Alaska. So I made up that story so that I can tell people how they can apply and how they can learn about these 7 mindsets.
Absolutely. Now, for some people, they're looking for folks to be a certain something in order to write a book. If it's a medical book, they want you to be a doctor, a nurse, a scientist. You catch my drift there. You are a business person and a scientist. Why do you feel that this helps attribute to your perspective of why this book is written from your perspective?
Well, yeah, I'm a scientist. I'm a person of faith. I'm a father. I've traveled throughout the world. I've traveled on 6 continents, about 45 different countries, and all 50 states. I've met all kinds of people throughout the world. I've seen ancient and modern civilizations, the remnants of ancient civilizations at least, and I've studied ancient peoples as well as a lot of people that have that live currently, and I've interviewed millionaires and billionaires in my work as part of my work, environmental science, as I've visited them and talked about their properties and such. And I've picked the brains of people that have made a lot of money. I've picked the brains of people who have failed, people who have succeeded, and rich and poor, and somewhere in between. And I have a pretty good perspective, like I say, from science, from religion, from the Bible, and from other things that all kind of work together for our good. And so that's how I think, and that's why I'm writing this book, is to share all those examples. I'm also, as part of being a businessman, as part of being a scientist and a businessman, I've managed a lot of people throughout my last maybe 30 years or so. I've been a project manager, I've been a regional manager, business unit manager, and have hired a lot of people. I've fired a few people. I've been fired myself, picked myself back up. I work with a lot of people. I evaluate a lot of people and their lives from a personal management standpoint. And so with all of this, I have a lot to share. I have a lot to want to and desire to help people that have failed and feel like they need a second chance, because that's what this book is really all about, is a second or maybe even a third chance in life.
Uh-huh. Now, why did you choose to write this book from the fictional point of view?
That is a very good question. I wanted to set up this ideal, this person, this Billy Haynes, who essentially is in a sense, the magnificent mindset man. I build this character up as the individual who has gone through trials in his own life, but became a billionaire and became a very successful person. And because I'm not that person. So I'm not the person that is, I guess, sharing these experiences as somebody who's made it, but a person who is a work in process himself. And so as I go on through my life, I know it is ideal, but I, like everybody else, we all struggle to live the ideal situation, and so we're all a work in process. We need goals. We need concrete framework and principles of true success that we can adhere to and adopt and actually make our own mindsets so that we can, step by step, work on those areas that are most important in life, our physical areas, our spiritual areas, the things that are emotional in our lives, the intellectual part, and the social part. There's 5 things that make us us, and that are those are those components: physical, spiritual, emotional, intellectual, and social, that really make us up. And we need balance in those areas. We need to set specific goals in those areas. And so I'm not the master of necessarily any of those areas, but I do know what works in my own life. And so I wanted to set up this ideal. I wanted to set up a story that somebody can kind of get lost in a little bit and kind of picture themselves as being there on this remote island and being Roger Hunt, who this person is that I'm talking about, that struggled through his life, kind of like me, and then meeting somebody that has all the answers and, you know, maybe has been presented these answers and then just sat on them for a few years and didn't do anything about it until, in a miraculous way, he's reminded that he has everything at his fingertips if he just starts applying those things. And so I want it to be a story, wanted it to be a story where people can relate to themselves, rather than trying to think that this Russell Hamblin guy has all the answers himself because he's perfected these things. I haven't. But I do know that these things are true because I've experienced them either vicariously or to a certain degree. I've had some success with them in the past.
Absolutely. I can understand that. Now, we have about 2 minutes left, but I want to ask you this before we go to break, and that is about your use of the word or the term mindset. We all have a certain understanding of what that means when we're dealing with certain people. What do you mean by mindset as it is addressed?
Thank you. Yes, I thought a lot about that. In fact, let me explain to you why I started talking about mindsets and performing what I call a mindset adjustment. Many of us have read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. And I've known a lot of people. I've known Stephen Covey's nephew, for instance, and I've attended a lot of his talks and things. One of the things that he said in his book was he referred to, and didn't go into length about it, but he referred to a paradigm shift, a moment in life where you can change your point of view, you can change your mindset, or you can change your way of thinking. And it's like an aha moment, like, oh man, I got to stop thinking and doing things this way. I need to really get on this horse over here that can get me to my location a lot better than this old other worn out horse, so to speak, which could be metaphorically a mindset. And so I started looking at mindsets because I think that's what he was referring to, but he didn't elaborate on them. And so where he left that off, I want to pick back up. I want to talk about mindsets till I'm blue in the face. I want to understand what a mindset is. And so I started studying in different references. And a simple Wikipedia mindset definition is that it's a set of assumptions, methods, or notations held by one or more people or groups of people, which is so established that it creates a powerful incentive within these people or group to continue to adopt and accept prior behaviors and things. It's a phenomenon of cognitive bias, and it's a mental inertia, and it's difficult to counteract. And so these are the things that I think of when I talk about a mindset, and this is what I want to expand on.
Absolutely. Well, Russell, it's time for us to go to break. Can you please remind everyone of the title of your book? Where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Yes, it's The Magnificent Mindset, and you can go on my website at mstech-success.com and click on the link there, read the book, and you can click on buy at Amazon, Google, Barnes & Noble, or iUniverse.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back. we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for our daily sponsor, Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Russell Hamblin, and we're talking about his book, The Magnificent Mindset Man, and I'm really, really, really digging that title. So if you are ready to get your mind all aligned, go on, continue with your coffee and your tea, because we are about to get started again. Well, Russell, my next question for you is about what you mentioned, the technologies. What is this mindset technologies that you speak of?
Good. And so at technology, I started thinking of how you could apply mindsets and things. And I wanted to look at the word technology a little bit. And so I got into the dictionary, and the dictionary teaches us that a technology is something that you study, something that you develop, and then something that you apply, whether it be a technology in terms of computers or whether it be a technology to clean up soil or groundwater contamination, which I'm involved in the last 35 years, or is it something that you can actually use your mind to make you a better person through adopting better mindsets. And so that's where I came up with the technology part. So mindset technologies is an idea. It's not necessarily a formal program or anything like that, where you can evaluate your mindsets and see if, with respect to certain things, and see if you're actually going anywhere with those mindsets, or are these destructive mindsets, or are these positive mindsets? And do you need a mindset evaluation? And so a mindset evaluation is to evaluate whether or not you need to make a change. And so therefore you go into the mindset adjustment standpoint and make an adjustment to what I recommend in my book, or these 7 mindsets of success that I call them.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we are dealing with self-help, when we're talking about mental health, we use the word evaluation and assessment a lot. And my listeners are definitely familiar with the use of the word. But what do you mean by mindset evaluation as you reference it in the book?
Well, from a personal standpoint, this is how I've applied it, and this is why I come up with it, and this is why I write about it in my book. I evaluated myself about maybe 7-8 years ago for a period of about 2.5 years. I went through a divorce. I developed a gambling addiction, of course, that helped lead to the divorce. I started doing things that I just did not like. I evaluated myself. I evaluated how I was thinking. What were my mindsets? Why did I fail in my marriage? Why did I do this? And then I married another fine woman, but then within 7 months, she passed away of a liver disease, and kidney disease, and gallbladder disease all at once. And she was with me and healthy, and then all of a sudden she died within about a month, into about 6-7 months of being married. And then I lost my mother. And so I had all these things kind of hitting me, the divorce, the second wife dying, my mother dying, and the gambling addiction, trying to get over that. And so I started evaluating the way I was thinking and looking at myself in the mirror, and I didn't like what I was seeing. And so I started going back to these other things that I had learned over the years, which I don't know where I'd be without the Bible. I don't know where I'd be without Jesus Christ. I don't know where I'd be without his healing powers and his atoning sacrifice for me. I don't know where I'd be without meeting my third wife, Julie, who I've been married to almost 6 years now, and the wonderful woman that she is. And she's the woman that encouraged me to write about these things. And so as I wrote about these things, I actually started writing a book. And so as a result of that, I evaluated my mindsets. Like my very first mindset of success is that I am born to win, that I am a divine creation of my Heavenly Father, and that he loves me and wants me to succeed. And because of that relationship with a real Father in heaven, I have the ability to draw upon his powers, and I have a certain amount of his divinity within me as a result of what my Savior's done for me. And so I know he wants me to succeed. And so I need to evaluate how I was thinking before and adjust it to thinking that I am born to win. And that's the very first mindset that I decided to write about. And how can that help me? And how was not thinking about that on a daily basis something that was hurting me? So I was evaluating how perhaps I wasn't thinking along those terms as much as I should be, and I adjusted my thinking on a daily basis that, look, when you're discouraged, remember that you are a divine creation, and he wants you to win. You were born to win. That's an example.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, as you were just talking there, and you spoke about your wife who passed away, I could just, you know, in my mind's eye, so to speak, I could just hear everyone collectively going, "Oh no!" So of course, you know, our condolences go out with that, and then we hear, you know, you married another woman, and she's awesome, and I could just hear everyone going, "Oh great!" You know, so glad that has happened to you. You know, we all have that scripture, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. So shout out to all the awesome wives out there. And of course, that being that awesome mate to that awesome man. So that's a good job there. Now, you talked about adjustments and making, you know, you have to do that evaluation. We have to assess ourselves, figure out what are the pros, the cons, the ups, the downs, what needs to be stopped, what can be tweaked, what can be adjusted just ever so slightly. But once we do that, we must make the adjustment. So, of course, my next question for you is going to be, what is mindset adjustment, as you talk about it in your book, and how do we apply that? How do we make that actionable to our day-to-day life?
So we do this by goals. We need to set goals. For instance, how am I lacking? The evaluation part again. How am I lacking from a physical standpoint? Am I overweight? Am I sick a lot of times because I am? Or am I just not building my body up through nutrition and exercise and those kinds of things? And so if that's what's part of what's ailing me, then I need to adjust to something better. And so the goal setting process is part of that adjustment. Knowing what you need to do is something that you actually plan out and start doing step by step. And so the book teaches you an effective way of setting goals. And that's in my third mindset, being fair to yourself, setting your goals in something that stands for each of the letters of the word fair. I can talk about that later. But it's a process of adjusting to certain mindsets, whether that be something like knowing that you were born to win gives you the inspiration to move forward and set goals to be better from a physical standpoint, or from a spiritual standpoint. I don't read the Bible enough, so I need to maybe read it something every night and start off slow but be consistent about it. Have personal prayers and experiences with my Father in heaven, and not only just praying for myself, but praying for other people as well, and praying and actually getting involved in other people's life through service and those kinds of things can help me be a better spiritual person. And you can look at emotional and intellectual and social as well in each of those areas. You can evaluate and you can adjust to what you are studying to help make you better. So this book begs you to read other books. This book encourages to even look at other, inspirational books and motivational books and success books. This book isn't the end all. This book is a stepping stone to help you set better goals. And so the adjustment standpoint is to actually start making progress through experiencing and manufacturing these goals, and then making sure that you write them down and that you follow up and you actually have somebody there to coach you and to help you. And that'll help you be a more successful person by adjusting to better mindsets and better goals within those mindsets to actually help you achieve what you need to achieve in life and overcome what you need to overcome in life.
Absolutely. And you said a really important thing there, and that is we need to make sure that we have the appropriate support teams around us.
Yes.
Different people can be in different parts of support for us. Sometimes we need that person who's going to cheer us on, but sometimes we need that person who's also going to tell us, you know what, page 3, think, rewrite that, or it's confusing, or it's not clear. You can do better, but do it in a very loving and kind way, with no, malicious intent, but really because they know that we're able to provide or produce better. So you are so right. Now I want to switch gears just a little bit, and I want to ask you about that writing process that you have. Now, did you find that while you were writing, because you are sharing such important information that really challenges us to step outside of the box with what we've always done, with the norms that we think that we should do, and causes us to stretch ourselves? Did you have to, in fact, remove yourself from the day-to-day hustle and bustle in order to write and be effective? Or did any of that matter? Were you one of those loners, or could you sit in the middle of your living room and still write?
That's a very good question. I'm not rich enough to go have a beach house so that I can sit out there and get inspired by the beach, or a mountain cabin or anything like that. And so I'm one of those that sometimes when I get involved in these kinds of things, I stay up kind of late at night, maybe in a recliner, and I think about things and I write them down, and then I get people's opinion about what I'm saying. Does it make sense? I even had an editor and maybe even a couple of different editors in a lot of different ways, and so I get ideas kind of going out and coming back, and it's an arduous process to write. I think seclusion, keeping the television off, keeping music off, and just having solitude and just kind of pondering and meditating upon certain principles. Remember scriptural type of like the parables and things like that Jesus taught, and those kinds of things. I even write about some of those in my book, as well as some of the miracles of Jesus, and I actually put myself in as a third person within some of those miracles, like Jesus walking on the water or calming the sea and those kinds of things. And if I was there, how would I have been motivated and things? And so I let my mind kind of wander, like if I was there, what would I have seen? What would have impressed me? Or how can I make an analogy out of a certain problem and things? How can I relate to other people? And so that's what I try to do. I throw things out, and hopefully they'll hit the wall and come back and hit me in the head and say, that is either the way you should do it, or that's not the way you should do it, and with other people helping me as well. So it's kind of very iterative, back and forth. It's experimental. It's very challenging, but also very rewarding to be able to have that solitude, but then also the interaction from time to time.
Absolutely. I can definitely understand both perspectives. You have to have that in your life. Well, it is time for us to take another short break, but before we do, Russell, could you please remind everyone, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And of course, how can we stay in contact with you?
Great. Russell Hamblin and the Magnificent Mindset Man, and you can go to mstech-success.com. Click on Read the Book, go to the bottom of the page, and it's available now on Amazon, Google, Barnes & Noble, and iUniverse. All you have to do is click those icons, and you can order immediately.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. We are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. Just a quick reminder, my guest today is Russell Hamblin, and we're talking about his book, The Magnificent Mindset Man. I love it. Now, you guys know that I love talking about your mindset. Now, there's legacy, and there is faith and family, and all of that. But having a good mindset is something that we definitely must have. So, Russell, my next question for you is about the seven transcending mindsets of success. Now, I know that is important. You kind of hinted along the way that we need to have everything planned out. We need to have it mapped out. Can you explain what this means?
Yes. And so I think you need a good plan if you want to adopt good mindsets. I think you have to sit down and evaluate yourself and then make the adjustments necessary. And so when I talk about the mindsets that I set up that are the 7 transcending mindsets of success, I could have gone on and on about successful things that I think that people can adopt, ways of thinking and habits and such. But I thought that the 7 that I chose were transcending in the sense that they are faith-based. There's also a lot written about maybe a lot of these principles that I've learned over the past, but I've been able to bring them into focus to the point where somebody can take each one of these and they can develop their lives better by strengthening their physical, spiritual, emotional, and intellectual and social ways of thinking, or those parts of their lives towards each of these mindsets, so that they can actually make progress, and notable progress and measurable progress in their lives to help them overcome challenges such as, in my life, gambling addiction and sorrow and things from divorces, from spouses passing away, and happiness, of course, keeping that in focus so that, I know what and I can appreciate what happiness is.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned that you had a gambling addiction. That is something that affects a great number of the population. How were you able to get your gambling addiction under control?
That's a great question. I don't gamble now. I haven't in quite some time, well over a year. I've, gone back and forth. This is the longest time that I've gone without. But developing these mindsets, I think, and strengthening them through goal setting is important. But I developed a certain program, a way of thinking about who we are, where we are, along, because we're all on a journey in life. We're on a journey. You can liken that into a highway. We're going from point A to point B, and sometimes we get distracted. We take the wrong exit off that highway from time to time and get in the wrong part of town. And so I've come up with what I call the A to E, the letters A, B, C, D, E, those 5 letters. They all stand for something that I've kind of kept in my mind. And that is that every bad habit and every addiction has certain things in common. And one of them is a thought. And so if you had an addiction and are overcome an addiction, or if you're overcome with that, you still have a thought about that addiction. So the letter A starts with a thought. And so we all have things that come up that reminds us of our addictions, or actually tempts us to get back into that addiction, to get off the wagon, so to speak. And so we need to watch our thoughts and be cognizant and aware of the things that we're thinking about, and know when those thoughts come into our mind and take the proper action. So you can, with a thought, once you get into that thought process, like I'm starting to think about wanting to go gamble, then I can take an exit card and get out of that, get back onto that highway and exit off of that exit and get back on the highway, so to speak, of success. But if I don't, then the next step is B, and B actually stands for beginning to want it. And I'll go through these faster because I know that time is precious here. But if you want it, that's going to make you go there.
I think that you should definitely, if you don't mind, I would love for you to be able to spend as much time on this as possible, because I know that this is going to help someone. So absolutely, take your time.
Yes. So B is you begin to want it. And as you begin to want it, you begin to crave it. Now, I've never been a smoker. I've never been addicted to alcohol or drugs, thank goodness. But I understand to some degree what people are going through with my own addiction when they are faced with things. Even my ex-wife smoked when she was a teenager, for instance, and she told me throughout the years she didn't really want to smoke, but then every once in a while she would get a whiff of somebody else's smoke, and it would be like, oh, her mind goes back. And it's just like me. Sometimes when I smell smoke, what I think of is not me smoking, but other people smoking in a casino. And so sometimes my mind goes back into that casino, and then my mind starts thinking, well, you want this, Russ. You want to be at a blackjack table, and you want to get that, you want to double down and get that win so that you can pay off your debts and things like that. And so you begin to want that. You begin to think how you're going to do that. And C stands for you're conceiving of a plan to actually fulfill your addiction or to succumb to that addiction. You're thinking about, gee, how can I get there? Where's the next casino? So you go onto your cell phone and you look up where's the nearest casino. You also start thinking about where's the nearest place to get money, such as an ATM or something, and these kinds of things. So you actually conceive of a plan to fulfill your addiction. And then D is that if you're doing all that and continue with that without taking an exit out of that situation by getting involved in doing other things, I could talk about that for a long time too, and how to take those exit cards. But D actually means that you are actually taking the detour that leads you to that casino or to that drug dealer or to that liquor store or whatever. You are actually on your way. You're actually a block or two away, and you've taken that and you're there. And so if you've done A, B, C, D, E, you've entertained the thought, you begin to want it, you conceive of a plan, you've taken the detour there, you're almost there. Then E just stands basically for it's easy to fall into that addiction and to get back into that addiction, to fall off the wagon, so to speak. So if you know where you are along that spectrum of A to E, those 5 steps that get you back into your addiction, if you're aware of that, then maybe you can proactively, by goal setting, by having people help you, by praying, by working hard and just doing everything you can to get back on that highway of success. Instead of those exits that you're taking, you got to take your exit to your exit, so to speak, and get back onto the highway of success and righteousness.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely. I think that was amazing. And you needed to spend time with that because you've helped somebody. Someone has said, yes, that's what I needed. Right there, the letter C. I needed T. Someone's going, I needed them all. Thank you so much for that explanation. And I'm glad that you were able to share that and to know that, you're trying to do these in your day-to-day life as well. Everyone needs to implement these things because we do have triggers. When you talk about that smoke or whatever, someone's like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember I had a client that says, I don't really have a problem with smoking until I'm playing cards. When it's like game night with everyone, because we used to play cards and I would smoke cigarettes and some people would drink. Like I didn't drink, but we smoked. And it was like that cigarette smoke makes me think about playing cards, and playing cards makes me think about the cigarettes. So you're right. There is something that triggers you, and the same way can trigger you positively. Grandma's cookies. Something can also trigger you into something that you're trying to no longer do. I agree with you with that. I've often joked about that old Krispy Kreme sign when it says hot now. That is a trigger for a lot of folks, and it's like,
right,
calling to me, right? It's like, don't do it.
Yep, that's true.
I hear you. Thank you so much for that. Now, for someone who says, you know what, this book is definitely something that I need to pick up. I need this information in my life, full access. How do you suggest that they actually read your book? Should they read it from cover to cover? Can they start with, chapter next? Can they just pick it up and start reading anywhere? What's your suggestion?
I think a person could look at, if they don't want to go through the story, if they're not entertained that way, that they can actually look in the table of contents and go to each of the transcending mindsets of success and read about each of them and learn why each of them are important and how they're applicable and how they can apply them to themselves. I recommend that somebody try the story. You get lost in the story a little bit. Become Roger Hunt. You're Roger Hunt, and strive to want to become somebody like Billy Haynes, because Billy Haynes is this magnificent mindset man that has come back from the other side to teach people like Roger Hunt. And so try to become part of the story in a sense. Well, I've been there too, or I've had a similar experience. And in a metaphorical way, he has a lot of experiences with this guide in his life. He's working in a remote area, and so it's just him there, as well as this being that keeps coming out of nowhere to either save him from danger. So it's an adventure story. So if you love scenic areas, I described the area of Prince of Wales Island off of Ketchikan, Alaska, in great detail. It's very beautiful there. People that have read my book say that they feel like they can relate to the area. They feel like they're in the story themselves. And that's one of the, I think, the strong points of my book is I've been able to describe the area so well and the story so well that people can put themselves in that position and allow Billy Haynes to be their guide as well. And so that's why I encourage people to be part of the story if they would like.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we like about a really well-written book is the fact that we're able to go along on the journey with the author.
Right.
You've written in such a way that we vividly see what you're explaining, and we feel as though we are there. Books, to me, really help balance information. So I have to agree with you on that. That's amazing. Now, my next question, and I do ask this of all my authors that are on, and that is about writing more work. So many say, nope, I've done what I needed to do. God purposed me for this one book. I'm done. On to the next thing. Others want to continue to share the knowledge that they have. Where do you find yourself in this moment of now when it comes to your writing future?
I'm asking myself that every day. I wrote this as a book of personal development to either overcome our weaknesses or even make strong things stronger in our lives. And so I look at this as I said, a personal development book. I'm also thinking of writing a sequel to this book that is more business related to somebody who is a professional, maybe a consultant similar to mine, and how to develop better relationships with their clients and how they can adopt their certain principles that I call the 7 P's of successful client management, similar to the 7 Transcending mindsets of success. They're mindsets in a way, but it's more business development and more management development and client development. And I'm thinking of turning that into an adventurous story as well. I leave certain areas open in the first book to help me write a second book. This second book would be possibly set in large part in Egypt. The 7 P's of client development could be the 7 pyramids of client development. I did my master's thesis in geology in the Cairo area and the Fayoum of Egypt, and I visited a lot of those pyramids, including the Great Pyramids, and I can write about each one pyramid. And I even did some geological studies on an old 4th Dynasty pyramid that was built by the grandfather of Cheops, who built the Great Pyramids in Giza. So I've got a lot to write about because I've got a lot of experiences, and I can make it a lot of fun. Maybe not quite Indiana Jones type of fun, but I can certainly do the best I can to make the learning process a fun process as well, and something that you can tie adventure into something practical that they can use in their life from a client management standpoint.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it makes me think of when you were talking about the pyramids. I think most people think that they're just, in one location. But as we know, there are pyramids all over the great continent of Africa. There are pyramids that have been a part of other cultures as well. So what a beautiful way to tie in various cultures for one thing that we all know in our mind's eye, and that is what we believe a pyramid to be. So that would be quite interesting. I hope you do definitely write that. Well, Russell Hamblin, I have enjoyed my time with you today. We are totally, completely out of time, but thank you so much for coming on and sharing your book and asking everyone to, expand their mind and to look at what can we do to have a better new year, and that is with your book, The Magnificent Mindset. Man, I love it. Thank you again for being on. If I could ask you one more time to remind everyone, where can they get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Yes, you can email me at russhamblin, RUSSHAMBLIN 9876 at gmail.com. You can visit my website, mstech-success.com, and you can go to read the book, and then down the page, there are 4 icons there. Buy at Amazon, Google, iUniverse, and Barnes & Noble. And I appreciate the opportunity. Dr. Angela, it's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you again, Russell. And listeners, thank you for spending time with us as well. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend this time with us, and I appreciate that. I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you to be your best today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember, you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone.